All right, this is case study chapter 17. For problem 1, we are presented with you are the head strength and conditioning coach at a local university, and the head women's tennis coach asks you to design a resistance exercise program. So it says, first you need to do a needs analysis. Please list below your preliminary findings, include the movements analysis, physiological analysis, injury analysis, training status, physical testing, and evaluation, and the primary resistance training goal. So first we looked at the movement analysis. During tennis, like playing tennis, the entire body moves to some degree. You have like the arms swinging over the head, you have swinging around the body, twisting, and normally the athlete's always in some sort of athletic position, like semi-crouched. So they're in like a flex point position, an AB, and adduction, and they aren't often in an upright stance unless like you're getting ready to serve, but usually you're like kind of like bouncing around and like twisting and turning and things like that. So for the muscles used, or for the muscle groups, we have like the deltoid muscle, like the shoulder girdle area, and like kind of like your traps, bicep, tricep, forearm. Pretty much everything there, your shoulder adductors, lat and trap, elbow flexors and extensors, your abdominal muscles whenever you're kind of swinging and twisting and for bracing, your hip flexors, ankle plantar flexors and extensors when you're moving around, knee extensors, and tennis athletes move in almost every single plane, transverse, sagittal, and frontal plane. And when they like hit a ground stroke, for example, they're in the transverse plane, which means that they're rotating. And if they're like moving laterally, they're working in the frontal plane. And when they're moving like forward and like backwards, they're in like the sagittal plane. For the physiological analysis, you're looking at like power movements, like hitting the ball like really hard, just explosive movements. And muscular endurance, especially during like a long rally, because you don't want to lose that power over like a long period of time. And then also you need to be able to be super precise with your movements, because obviously you need to be able to hit within a certain area and you need to target those spots on the court, and you need to be able to keep doing that over time in long matches. For types of injuries, for the injury analysis, we've got ankle sprains, shoulder injuries, and like elbows and wrist injuries, and these are usually caused by stress fractures, and like from repetitive movement. Other sources of injury could be improper fueling, like hydration, or improper warm-up, or like a lack of mobility. But like those injuries, like in game, definitely like overuse, or like just turning too fast, twisting too hard. For the training status, it says that the coach is at the local university, so we're gonna assume that they're at a high level of fitness training just because they are in college. But obviously they aren't pro, but they're still like in college. It doesn't really matter if it's D1 or D3. For the physical testing, we're gonna be using the movement analysis and kind of like working through like what the athletes need, and we're going to be using the movement analysis results to determine that. And this includes like overhead swinging tests or body rotation tests. Good things to do would be like an overhead medicine ball throw, or like a side rotational throw against the wall. Broad jumps, like horizontal jumps for explosive power. It's a pretty standard one. You want to do agility testing. Like I mentioned before, you're doing a lot of just moving all around the core, like horizontal, lateral, shuffling, being able to move in any direction at any time is the goal. And then core testing, obviously playing sit-ups, crunches, and then flexibility and range of motion tests, like especially in the shoulder, and power testing, like how fast they can move weight, because obviously time is really important. And then for their primary resistance training goals, we're going to use the results of the physical testing and to focus on certain training goals, just depending on how these athletes present like their results. Not too many hypertrophy goals, because we still want to have a good amount of rotation. Obviously, like, strength training is super important to prevent injury, but they want to have enough strength and power in their arms to send long hits. They also want to balance their body. So if you have an athlete that's right arm dominant, you want to make sure you're strengthening the left side of your body, so you don't have massive muscle imbalance, and so you're able to prevent injury. And then strengthening their shoulder girdle and their shoulder joint, again, for injury prevention and single and multi-joint exercises. And then in these, like, resistance training goals, they'll concentrate on one training outcome per training cycle. So, like, if you really want to focus on, like, if you want to have, like, a strength cycle, like, during the off season, or, like, just, like, more of, like, power and, like, maintaining explosiveness during other parts.